So hi everyone, thanks for joining us again this Saturday. Today we have two very interesting people. They also happen to be pretty close friends of mine, Lakham and Shraddha. So both of them belong to the royal house of Sawantwadi, and we'll be talking a lot about the history, the arts, the architecture, and a lot of other topics as well. So it's a pretty interesting topic today. A little bit about Countryside before we start off. We are a 27-year-old adventure travel company based out of Mumbai. We do offbeat adventure holidays, like cycling, walking, trekking in India and all over the world. Besides that, we also do outdoor management programs for corporates and outdoor educational programs for international schools. So today, my guests are Lakham and Shraddha Bhosle. Both of them have graduated from the Culinary Institute of America in New York. Shraddha is a chef, sommelier, and a restaurant consultant. Lakham is a managing trustee of Sindhudurg Zilla Shikshan Prasasak Mandal. He's also a pastry chef and a restaurant consultant. Guys, thank you for being here today.
It's our pleasure, Bhire.
A pleasure, Peter.
So, in the beginning, I think I'll start off with Lakham because we'll be talking a lot about the history and things like that. So, Lakham, could you please tell us a bit about the history of the Bhosles? Like, are you from Kolhapur, as they say, or is it from Udaipur, or where is it from?
So actually, originally we are from Udaipur. So what we call as the Mool Purush, or the first person who came down from Udaipur, from our family, from which we belong to, was called Mang Sawan. So he came down somewhere around the late 1500s, early 1600s. So he came down here somewhere around this area. And later on, he came as a Subedar to the Adil Shahis of Bijapur. And that's how we originally came to this area. We fought quite a few wars around here, and then later on he was established as a ruler over here.
Okay, so speaking of wars and relationships in the Konkan area, um, Kem Savan the Third was a very important figure during that time, right? Because you had to balance the Portuguese, the English, and the Marathas in Kolhapur.
Yes, so probably Ken Sawan is the era which Ken Sawan the Third is the era which had a lot of influence of actually art. There's a lot of wars also going on at the same time, and we were actually originally we were sort of pirates also. So we used to be stealing from the Portuguese, and that was kind of a thing. Then we also had treaties with the Portuguese. Then we also fought with them. Then we also fought with the Marathas, with Shivaji. So there was a lot of rift here and there. We also, after all this ruling, we were also with the British. So there was a lot of mixture of everything around.
Okay, and there's also a strange story of how a battle with the Marathas led you to realize that you were kind of related to Shivaji as well.
Yes. So initially we fought I think so twice against Shivaji. That was around the same time when there's a Lakham Sawant. So the same way I had my name, there was a Lakham Sawant at that time. So he had fought a war. He died during the battle. So after I think so we realized at some point that we were internally related. We came down from the same descendants from Rajasthan. So we found some relation. And what they call as a Bhavani Talwar, which was not actually given directly by us, but it was given down by one of the people from one of the Sawant families from a place called Banda, which is close by from here. And that's where a person, one of the people from the Sawant family gave it to him as a sovereign, so that we would be fighting under him, because he had conquered us at that time because we lost the battle. So he had conquered us, so we were fighting with him and under him.
Okay, and so I think there are another two people who are very interesting. One thing was your great grandfather Kem Savan Bhosle the fifth, and also
Yes.
your grandfather Shivram Raje Bhosle. So Kem Savan Bhosle the fifth met some interesting people, right? He met Gandhi. He also had an interaction with Ambedkar.
Yes. So King Sound the Fifth, because with all this history, a lot of history is lost in the past. So there was not that much known about the previous. There might have been a lot of influence and they might have done a lot of contribution. But in the recent history is like my great grandfather, which you can see on the left, is King Sawan the Fifth. and he had a lot of contributions towards. He had a short tenure. He passed away also at a really young age. Passed away actually in Pune Club, which is and also I think he had a swimming pool accident. So he had a lot of influence towards education, and when it comes to sense, when you're talking about Gandhi, when he also had interaction with Gandhi. So Mahatma Gandhi had come during the first Congress meet that happened in Belgaum. I think it happened during 1925-26. So when it happened, he was trying to run away from the British. So he was in hiding with us in Amboli for probably I think around 2 months. He was there for a quite period of time over there, and that was around the same time before what we call as Dandi March also. Before it happened over there in Dandi, it happened initially over here. It happened on a smaller scale, so a lot of people don't know about it.
Okay. And
And
also,
then
there
he
was an instance
also
with
had
this thing,
an
right?
interaction with Ambedkar.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he had an interaction with Ambedkar. So when every king rules and everything, he gives verdicts, and he's a judge in front of a lot of people. So he was a very diplomatic, and he gave a few good judgments. I don't know anything in particular, but it's probably something which has influenced him because he has made a mention about it in his book, Ambedkar, about it. And up to date, so we still have the chair which he actually made some of those judgments around here.
Ah, okay. So was it Khem Sawan Bhosle the fifth, or was it your grandfather who ended up meeting Nehru in the in
So it was
40s
my
or 40s?
grandfather. So
Okay.
during around 1950, after we got independence and everything, he had come down here. It probably was maybe just to get a political influence around all the other territories of India. So he had come down here to just visit and see how it is around this area. And he had stayed where. So this picture over here is actually where Gandhi had stayed. This is the Amboli, which is our palace, summer palace. But going back to what Ambedkar was, going back to Nehru, he had stayed in the college, which is currently now the college, which was before a guest house, which is the SPK college. It became Sri Pancham Kemraj Mahavidyalaya, which is currently now what is the college right now. So there's a guest house previously, so that's where he resided.
Okay. Oh, fantastic. So this is the palace in Namboli.
Yeah, so this is the palace in Amboli. This is the same compound, the premises where Gandhi lived in when he had come down, when he had escaped from the British.
All right. So moving on, we'll talk about the palace. So again, I have a lot of questions about the palace. So was it always a palace? Was it a fort? Was it something else before it became this way? Or
So according to what my knowledge is that the difference between a fort and a palace is more for residence. It's a residence where the royal stays and everything. It's not a place where like how a fortress is where you have walls and you're trying to like you build it as a fort where you're protecting. So I think so in the past you could have called it as a fort because it was used in a lot of battles and we have fought wars against people. So it was probably used as that. And right now we don't fight any wars. Hopefully not any more in the future. But so now we call it as a palace.
but originally, it was like I mean, the Bhosles was staying on a hill, and then later on you moved down, right?
So originally, when we came down here to this area, our capital was Kodal. So that's where our residence was, where our old kota, you call it, was there over there. And then later on, we came down and we were staying up on the hill. So the hill is right opposite where the palace premises. There's a lake in front of it, a man-made lake, and just opposite on the hill is where we used to reside. So that was, I think, so probably in the 17th century, around 1700s. And later on, we came down here. Probably we may have come down here because maybe it may have been difficult to get water there, transportation, and it may be a lot of inconvenience. So we came down here, and the palace I think so was built during the 18th century, so around early 1800s. And then later on, the newer structures which are present there today were built in the around 1880, where all these present structures which are there.
Okay.
So right now what you see over there is the Packet Square. So that's where all the administrative offices, so before independence, where your court, where all the treasury and everything used to exist. So a lot of people used to be coming here and used to have a lot of interaction over here. So over here you will not find any rooms or any, just would be small halls over there where you see a lot of meetings or like offices, administrative offices.
Mm.
And currently now we've just converted this into a museum. So part of it we've converted to a museum and we're trying to revive and see what else we can do over here now.
Fantastic, fantastic. So this is the Leicester Gate, right?
Yes, so this is a Leicester Gate. And I think so, as you can see, is that there's a lot of influence of the English in here because we were under the, not under British, but we were under the ruling of the British, whole India was, but a lot of English influences there, a lot of arches. The colors are obviously from the local colors itself, like the red, laterite, most of it is in laterite, buildings and everything. But if you go and see, there's some part of the structure which has ivy, which only one floor has ivy, which is more towards what the British kind and what the British have over there back in UK over there.
Fantastic. And this is the famous Darbar.
Yes, so this is Darbar Hall. So this was built by Raghunath. So that was came found that his father who built this during 1880. So it was built during that time. So mostly this Darbar Hall was used for all darbars which used to take place. So maybe like banquets, what you call it in modern days, and also where a lot of people used to come to meet and where they used to have all interactions. So this happened in a much later stage. So even maybe it didn't was built much later on. So there have been much smaller darbars in the past. And I think so, as you can see in the picture, right now we have put up tables out there. So those right now we have all our artists who work over here, so who do our art work and everything around here.
Okay. And you, but the palace itself is very self-sufficient, right? Like from over here, I know you also have a small temple and things like that.
Yeah, so like how a palace would have everything inside its four walls. So there's everything over here. So even the temple, which is a temple of more than 365 villages around here. So you find a lot of people coming around the village just to come and visit the temple. So which is normally the temple is a Patekar temple. So we have a path over there. That's why it's called Patekar. And most the day of the temple when they come to worship is mostly a Monday. So they what they call as when during Shravan they call Shravan Somvar. So normally you find a lot of people coming from the villages over here. So you find huge crowd for the 5 Mondays which are there during Shravan. So it's a good time to come over here because there's a lot of people coming in and it feels nice. It feels like a festive. So that's one of the ways more festive times when people come over here.
But do you end up interacting with them when they're there and?
Yes. So we have a small feast or a small, not a small banquet. So we have where we have snacks on one of the Mondays which we choose, which is mostly the last Monday of Shravan. So people come here, have snacks and everything around here. So it's a nice feeling to have. There's some interaction and people feel nice about it.
Fantastic, fantastic. So over here, I think we have a picture of your grandfather with Nehru, correct?
Yes, so
Yep.
that's the time
And
when
Morarji
Nehru
Desai.
came down here. So that's the time when Nehru came down and Morarji Desai and few other Congress people who had come down during that era. That's just out. It's just at the entrance of my residence, which we reside in now, the private residence. And on the right is a picture of my grandfather and my grandmother. So in modern day times, they were. So my grandfather was one of the last rulers who existed, who got coronated. So he also got coronated, which was only for around 6 months. He also was coronated in 1947. So early part of 1947, around January. So not much time he was the ruler, but then later on he became an MLA. So a six time MLA he was over here in this constituency. So he had a lot of influence, even though people say like he ruled afterwards also. So basically he had a political influence and he was there politically chosen as safe. I mean not like a ruler by family, but at least chosen by the people.
So now we get to another interesting part because both of them were very much into art, right? And they were extremely crucial for reviving Ganjifa arts and toy making in Sawantwadi in general, right?
Yes, Aditya. So our grandparents, that's Rajmata Satvashila Devi Bhosle and Lieutenant Colonel Shivram Sawant Bhosle, they were the ones responsible for reviving this art form. So in 1971, they found a couple of artists around the area and they discovered this art form called Ganjifa. A few months later, when my grandfather traveled to England, he realized that at the Victoria Albert Museum in London, we had a set of playing cards, which traced back to Sawantwadi. And then they realized that this was first, they looked up more into it, and then we discovered that Ganjifa was an art that was brought down by the Mughals in the 17th century. It came into Sawantwadi in the 20th century, and that's when we had started it first. But it kind of lost its course. And then in 1971 is when they revived it. So that's when Aji and Azuba started the Sawantwadi Lacquerware, where we started doing not only 14 different kinds of Ganjifa cards like you see in front of you, but we also started furniture, utilities, trays, beauty products, stuff like that. So they played a very important role in the arts field. They not only produced it, but they were painters themselves. Both of them had very distinctive styles. And Aji, for one, she did a lot of wildlife. She did butterflies and animals. And Azuba had a very different style of depicting art. He used to do more mythological figures. So it was very varied, but it was a very interesting combination that they had going.
Super. And speaking about Ganjifa, like what are the origins? Because we always hear stories of Akbar playing a lot of Ganjifa and things like that. So is it from Egypt? Is it from Persia, or is it just a Mughal thing which started later on?
So from the books that we've read, we trace it back to Persia, and the Mughals got it down in the 17th century. So when it came into India, it had a lot of Mughal influence in terms of like the Ganjifa cards were based on the kings and the courts that they used to have in their kingdom. Then when the Hindus adapted it, they adapted it with their own style where it was based on God. So the Dashavtar Ganjifa, which is one of the most famous Sawantwadi Ganjifa sets, is based on the incarnations of Lord Vishnu. It's a 120 deck card set where like all the 10 incarnations are portrayed. The one that you see in front of you is another variation of the same Ganjifa that's called a Rashi Ganjifa, which is based on a Rashi. Then we do different kinds, like we do animal Ganjifas and bird Ganjifas, which are very pretty also, and they're based on like birds and animals of India.
Fantastic. So another two things, like because I got a lot of reading material and things like that. So two interesting things were that one thing is Ganjifa cards don't generally depict a queen, and the other one being that you don't gamble. You can play Ganjifa cards, but you don't gamble.
Correct. So the Ganjifa card is always about like the king and his its court. So even the Ganjifa cards that we have here, there's a king card, there's a wazir, and then there's the numbers from 1 to 10. So it's always been based like that, along with what coming back to the colors. So usually the art was influenced by the colors that were readily available in the area. Like you see with our history also, we had a lot of laterite stone available. So we used a lot of sinduri, we used a lot of red in our Ganjifa. What you see in front of you is a Dhanalakshmi Ganjifa, which is blue. This is a modern depiction of Ganjifa. So these colors were not readily available back then. We had tried our hands on natural colors, but they never used to hold up well. So now today we use tempera colors, poster colors, and then we lacquer it 3 times so that it's preserved well. Because this art form is so intricate and it takes a really long time for our artists to do it. One of my artists will take about 20 days to do one set of a Dhanalakshmi Ganjifa or a Dashavtar Ganjifa from start to the end. So,
yes. And you also into a lot of toy making, correct?
Yes, we do board games. So, like you see in the board game that we have here, it was designed by Lieutenant Colonel Shivram Sawant Bhosle, that's my grandfather. This was based on our temple, like Patikad. See, there's a bhatji that you see, the priest, you see a horse, you see the king and the queen, and the colors also that we've used are red and green, which are staple to Sawantwadi at that point. Now, if you see the corners of the chess set, there are a lot of, the borders are floral printed. Now, these prints are also something that was carried forward by the Chittari. So like in any furniture that we have, even at home, the flowers, the patterns, the diyas are all patented, or not, I would not say patented, but they're unique to Sawantwadi lacquerware.
And again, everything is handmade, huh?
Yes, everything is handmade. We do the woodwork here. We season the wood in the propriety for about 3 years. We used to do teak wood in the past, but now that it's not as readily available, we've switched to white cedar.
Huh, all right.
Yeah.
This is beautiful here. But the borders, it's also there in the cards. I've noticed that.
Yes. So the thing about these borders, one thing I'd like to point out is with every product of Sawantwadi lacquerware, the borders are unique to us. For example, even in the Ganjifa, there are two kinds of Ganjifa. There's the Bazar Kalam Ganjifa and the Darbar Kalam, which means that in the past, there were certain sets that were played by the locals, and there were certain playing cards that were only played by the royals of the house because it had more intricacy. The material that was used was mostly like tortoise shells or ivory back then. And it took more time to create that, and it was much more expensive. So there comes a differentiation. And when it comes to these borders, these are all, like I said, all have drawn inspiration from the work from the Chittaris, which was the school that was established in Sawantwadi in the 18th century, somewhere around.
Wow. So besides Sawantwadi, are there any other states or localities who are also doing Ganjifa arts?
Yes, absolutely. Ganjifa was actually practiced by every state in India once upon a time. But now today we have, I think, from my knowledge, about 4 to 5 states that are still practicing it. Orissa, Mysore, West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh are the ones that I know still continue to do it. A lot of them have stopped doing it is because the artists were not drawn enough, or a lot of times the art was not passed on through generations. You know, even in the past, we've met a few people who are not willing to teach the younger generation sometimes because it's very tedious. It does not pay you as much sometimes. So those conflicts somewhere arise. But we are trying our very best to keep the art going, reviving, because Aji and Azuba spent a lot of time and effort.
Yes.
They were very proactive about this. You know, you've spoken to them. So, you know, our only thing, dream as the Bhosle family is that so we revive it, we do them justice, and hopefully we bring it to a platform where everyone knows what Ganjifa is, what Sawantwadi lacquerware is.
Fantastic. I'm sure that will happen.
I hope so.
Now, these are your parents, correct? Lakham, of course, I know them very, very, very well. And I know they've been doing a lot of good work for the people of Sawantwadi and, of course, the kids. Can you just tell us a little bit about it? Because I know I've seen the school, I've been there, and it's fantastic, guys. Like they've got a rifle shooting range, and it's really, really well done. So, Lakham, could you just tell us a bit about it?
So I'll go a little bit behind and tell you that
you'll have to be a little louder, Lakham. Sorry.
So I'll go a little bit behind, and I'll tell you that we had a college which was established by my great grandmother, Rani Parvati Devi. So she established a college, which is still date over here. There was another college which was named by Rani Parvati Devi, which was shifted to Belgaum. And the college which is there now is named after her husband, which is Sri Pancham Khemraj, that's SPK in short. So currently my parents look after this place, look after the institute. So like as a ruler, you could help your people when you were ruling and you were taking taxes, you had a lot of things. So in the modern day, the best way to impart help or to help anybody in society is to impart education. And so I think so my family over generations have thought that this is the best way to at least get people educated, let your people grow and feel interacted and see what's happening outside these four walls, what is in Sawantwadi, see what's happening in Bombay and everything, because people can't afford to go to Bombay or they can't afford to go abroad. So how well was like how travel my parents are and everything, it helps bring what they have gained knowledge over here and let people experience it. And especially talking about all this with COVID-19 happening, it brings a lot of people from now, a lot of people who lived in Bombay and who now have all started coming down back home because they've lost their jobs or yeah, they're finding it really difficult to sustain over there. And I think now it's going to be a time where we can all get together and develop how this area and see what it's not only being dependent on the bigger cities. So my parents have contributed to college, and we also recently started a school which was around 10 years ago. It started by my grandmother, and my mother looks after it now. And it's been good. So we have over now 2,500 students in the college,
Fantastic. Super.
and we have around 800 students in the school. So it's a good mix, and it's a good thing. It feels nice sometimes to impart something and to give something back to society. And we have one thing which we do is that we us like our school fees are not high or anything. We help the economically backward. Our our fees are completely minimum. It's like absolutely the bare minimum. What we need to pay the staff. It's actually a non-profit organization. Actually, we do not generate any income out of it.
You also have kids from nearby schools also coming and visiting the palace, right?
Yeah, we always encourage it for all the nearby towns. The students to come in and listen to a little bit of our history. We also organize a picnic for them sometimes, where they sit in the Packet Square or down where we have a kale bag. So they come, they sit, have a good day outside. So we try a bit in trying to impart some knowledge from our end.
And could you please tell me about this picture? Because I know you spoke a bit about this yesterday about dwindling attention spans and people can't concentrate for long hours on doing one card.
So this is a Ganjifa workshop that we've recently started organizing. This is the MIT College from Pune who had come down. So they have this semester every year where they have to choose a smaller city or a town and go study their architecture and what goes behind it. So they came to the palace, and we hosted this workshop for them, where we teach them basic borders that go on every Ganjifa set. And it was quite delightful. Like, I think about 20% of the students were very intrigued and they really wanted to give it their best. But after 1 hour of the workshop, we kind of realized that people were so exhausted. Like, they go back to social media, they go back to their Instagram. And because it's something that they're not used to, but it also helps them understand the kind of effort that goes behind a handicraft product. It's not a printed a product that we are giving you. For all our artists to sit from 9 a.m. in the morning till 5:30 in the evening, doing the same borders on 120 cards, 3 sets together. It's very tedious, and a lot of people don't understand that until they've not practiced it. So with our workshops, we're trying our best to able to educate the students or the youth today what goes behind a handicraft product.
Fantastic. So I know that you also get groups from Deccan Odyssey who come there. So do you give them like a session like this?
We haven't been doing workshops for them, but every time Deccan Odyssey comes down, we spend the entire day. So we welcome them. We take them to a nearby village called Pingoli, where we show them a puppet dance. They come into our palace. We welcome them with, there's a proper procession in terms of like there's band, there's music. We give them a sweet to welcome them into our palace. We take them through the museum, and then we host a proper sit-down lunch where we give them a traditional Konkani thali. And after that, we take them through a few art forms that we do. So it's always a fun time getting Deccan Odyssey coming in, because you meet so many people, and sometimes you meet such interesting personalities, and very often we get in touch with them, and we're still in contact with a few. We have plans for this property in the future, and we are still in touch with them as to how we can go forward, how we can get more tourism into Sawantwadi. So it's always an interesting idea.
Fantastic. So speaking of plans, I know you have a lot of plans for the future. So do you want to share some with us?
So currently, we're working on opening a boutique hotel. We're trying to keep it as simple and stay true to our roots, is what I would say. We're starting with 6 rooms, and we're doing it, basing it on our art, the art that we've been patronizing for years now. So the concept is that the first 6 rooms are going to be based on our Dashavtar Ganjifa. I understand that the Dashavtar has 10 incarnations, but we're starting with the first 6, where every room is going to be based on one incarnation of Lord Vishnu. So the room that you see here on the left, that's our room number 1. That's the Matsya Avatar. So a few basic things that we've thought of is, categorize it or make it a little more artistic in every way that we can and more personal. So you see on the wall, that's a 4-foot painting done by one of our local artists of the Matsya Avatar trump card. The furniture that you see in the living room, the center table was designed by my grandfather, and it must be around 55 to 60 years old. It's got Goddess Saraswati on all 4 sides. Even the furniture that we're using to sit is all made in the property itself. So we're trying a bit to, keep it more personal. And one thing that we've decided as a family is that, and my mother-in-law is very up for it, that we try to hire locals. We try to give more and more employment to any people from Sawantwadi. All the material that we've sourced out has been, as much as we can, has been sourced out locally. So we're trying a bit and hope this success is successful,
And both of you are chefs, right? So I'm sure there's going to be some interesting menu planned.
Oh yeah, we have big plans. We want to do a lot. But we want to do a mix. Lakham is a pastry chef. I'm a culinary arts chef, and I specialize in Asian food. So we want to be able to serve that. Plus, we want to serve our traditional thalis, but in a grander manner. I've also studied wine. So my dream one day is, I think, is to have a proper restaurant setup where people travel from places to just come and eat our food and have a good time here. That's one of our dreams.
Superb. Guys, I've been getting a lot of questions, so we'll definitely take one or two of them.
Okay.
But a lot of people are asking me, how do you play those cards, and where can they buy those cards in Bombay and things like that, or even the lacquerware. So if people have to reach out to you and understand more about where they can buy things, how do they get in touch with you?
This game, how to play them, it's basically you play these cards face down on a table. You play it in numbers of 3 or multiples of 3. And this game was played from 7 in the morning till 7 in the evening. So what happens is that before sunset, your trump card is Lord Rama, and after sunset, your trump card is Lord Krishna. And it's similar to what we would say Teen Do Paas or Do Teen Paas, what you might call it. It's similar in a certain manner, but we do attach a booklet with all our Dashavatar Ganjifas where how to play the game is explained. There are also some YouTube videos where you can learn how to play it. We sell currently through Instagram or via email. Our lacquerware page is Sawantwadi Lacquerwares on Instagram, and our email is sawantwadilacquerwares@gmail.com. If at a point where it gets difficult to communicate via email, we're always happy to get on a phone and connect with anybody. So
Super.
Yeah, we're trying a bit.
No, I just recall this because we were just talking about it yesterday about playing cards was more of a thing of saying prayers also at one point in time.
So what happens is that when you now this is the 10 avatars of Vishnu. So you're continuously, when you're playing the game, when you're placing the card or something, you're continuously saying which avatar it is. So you're continuously taking the name of God. So you're basically chanting indirectly. So you're praying, you're doing your mantras, basically what people would be doing. So indirectly, it's a way you would learn, and we would pray, and we would enjoy playing the game also. So it's everything in one.
It's actually quite a challenge, the game. It's not as easy as you think, because it has so many folds to the game, where the first 5 suits, the highest card is 1 and the lowest card is 10. The next 5 suits, the highest card is 10 and the lowest card is 1. And with time, it changes. So the game goes on for 3 days in a row. And it's a challenge. Like, people can get competitive.
That's really interesting. Another question I have from Amaya Puranik is, when is your hotel starting? I'm sure that's on everybody's mind, so.
I hopefully think before the end of the year. Yep. It's almost done, but since there's a lot of work stopped because of the lockdown, so hopefully before the end of the year it should start. That's what we're looking. We're looking at somewhere around October.
And we have another question from Harsh. He's like, in terms of preserving and reviving the arts, how has the local community responded? Like, are they also trying to help out and revive the arts? And
so initially, I think so. When during my grandmother's time, it used to be a lot more difficult because they had just parted away. Because it was a whole committee and everybody was doing it at the palace itself. And then at a later stage, the people who were working there went out and then they started doing it themselves. But they said that we could do it themselves. But they later didn't realize that they are not good at marketing. They were good at making the things, but they were not good at marketing. And so they realized the fall, and then they just stopped coming back here because they had an ego. We also had an ego at that time. And but now what we have seen is that because we are younger, the generation is younger, we are more open-minded, and it's a lot more interactive. And we have realized that today, if we don't work together, we will not even get sound for your head. It will just we will get our name ahead, but it won't be that much enough. So if you want to put it out ahead, so a lot of people are like, even people are coming for jobs. People want to come and learn. They want to be a part of it, and they realize that they don't do the same mistake what happened in the past.
Recently, we had, Whistling Woods come in. We had a couple of colleges from Pune come in. What we did realize is now the youth today is a lot more interested in the art form and how it's done, the intricacy of the format than what at least I think your and my generation was. I think they're more pro it. Also today, with the artists that work here, we have 3 generations working. One of the first few artists that we had when we started Sawantwadi Lacquerware in 1971. He's working, his son is working, his daughter-in-law is working.
Wow.
Even the other artist, his son has started coming back to work with us. He used to work with us and then stopped coming for a while. So we're trying our bit. We do have interns coming in from colleges, 1 or 2, not too many. But I think it's a stepping stone, and I think it can do much, much better.
In terms of marketing, I know you guys were doing quite a bit because you had a display at the airport, the international airport in Bombay, and at the Kala Ghoda festival this year, correct?
Yes, that's correct. We displayed at the international airport where they had an entire month dedicated to arts of Maharashtra. So we displayed our Ganjifa and Sawantwadi lacquerware products. Even at Kala Ghoda, Itiha Corp, we tied up with them where they did a Ferris wheel for the different arts of Maharashtra, and the center of it and one of the seats was dedicated to Sawantwadi lacquerware. We
Fantastic.
also hosted a workshop in Bombay at the Kala Ghoda festival where we taught them how to do the Rashi Ganjifa.
Wow. Because I know we have a lot of people from Bombay over here who might be interested to attend one of your workshops. Yeah. Another question I have is, do you courier these art pieces, or like how does it work?
Yes, absolutely. So you place an order with us on Instagram or email, or get in touch with us over the phone. As soon as you make an advance payment, we courier it to you. Because we're trying to stock up, and like we're trying to make our presence more available. Hopefully by the end of the year, we'll be able to participate in a few more exhibitions and try to showcase our products more.
Superb. Guys, thank you so much. Let me just see if we have any more questions, but I think that's about it. Thank you everyone for participating. I hope you really enjoyed this talk. Nakam Shraddha, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Hopefully once this lockdown is done, I'll see you in Bombay again sometime soon.
Yes, definitely.
We'd personally like to thank everyone who came in to hear us talk. We hope it was insightful and you all had a good time.
Super, guys. Thank you so much. I'll be recording this in any case, so I'll share the YouTube link with you guys soon. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone, for joining in today.